What's up, do-it-yourselfers? Thanks for tuning in to Small Engine Repair Channel, where our main goal is to make sure you know that you have the ability to fix or repair whatever you want to take on.
Alright, here we go. As you can see, we have a Smart Tools suitcase-style generator here, and I'm going to pull on it a few times to start off. It just will not start. Alright, let's fix it. As you can see, we're going to try to get the proper camera angle here in a second, and as my boy Tone Loke said, let's grab some tools and let's do it. Alright, so these are going to be, to get the main case apart, is going to be like a Phillips screw. Sometimes they do require an impact screwdriver. This particular one did not, as you guys can tell. Just righty-tighty, lefty-loosey on this. I'm going to use all hand tools in this video, so basically, if you have one that's dead in a parking lot or in a campground, or this generator won't start for you and you've got a couple tools on hand, you should be able to make this thing run by watching this video. It's kind of our goal here. So we flipped it around. We're going to take all the top case screws out first. And yeah, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, Phillips bit, not too much rocket science there. So as you can see, I got a magnet. That's just something I use to help grab screws and whatnot so they're not going all over the place. Have that baby locked and loaded, so as soon as that screw pops out, it is time to just grab it and go. You'll have to pull a lot of guys pull the 6 screws on the end covers. There's 6 of these Phillips screws all rotated around here so you guys can see. I only pull 3 depending on how I'm feeling that day, because you only really need to pull it apart now that I've learned. But these suitcase style generators can be very intimidating at first, but once you've taken a few apart, or even if you got a video follow along I found kind of like this, it shouldn't be too difficult. And yeah, your generator's more than likely probably got a carb blockage as to why it's not starting, but we'll go over a few things with this video just to verify that's it, but I've had yet to see one of these without spark yet. So they seem to be pretty okay machines. They're not a Honda EU2000 by any means, but they are a pretty good generator. So we took our 3 screws on the end out. We're going to move to the bottom. These are an Allen head. I think they're like a 5.5 millimeter if I recall, but I could be wrong. Don't hold me to that. Just a basic Allen head. There's 3 bolts here, 3 screws. And after we release these, we're going to take the 2 main screws out of the side cover. Your side cover is going to not release super easily. You're going to see I'm going to take the first screw out right here. The second screw is going to be over on the upper left hand side. But there is like a little push tab. Boy, I almost want to call it a nipple, but it's not. Anyways, you'll see it. It's a grommet. It goes inside of a grommet when you pull this cover off. It's going to be kind of a struggle for me to get it off, as you can tell. Yours will be as well. And those little grommet holder deals I'm talking about are right in the middle. So I kind of pull from the top, then the bottom, and that'll release this cover, and just kind of work it real slowly. Be patient. There it is. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about right here. These little tabs, they will hold that thing in there. They're on each side, and yeah, they just don't think you're going to break it. So you can see our carburetor is located here, and we have one more screw here, and then the whole side cover is going to release. As you can tell, our carb won't come out or can be removed without pulling this main cover off. So let's get the last bolt out of this thing real quick. Phillips bit. It is a little bigger than the other ones, but I use the same screwdriver. Some guys choose to use a bigger bitted screwdriver, but I haven't had to yet on any of them I've worked on. And like I said, this will apply to the Yamahas and Wengens. Can't remember if I mentioned that in this video or not, but yeah, I think there's a couple other brands that make the same style or same thing, and they just put their stickers or colors on it. But yeah, they're all the same generator. Yamaha's the same thing too. We're going to pull the front 3 screws out of the front cover out, just so the side cover will release. As stated previously on the rear cover, some guys pull those 6 out. I just pull the 3. Pull the gas cap and the rubber lid. You'll see a few frames ago I pointed out real closely, a little close up of where it meets the thing there. There is a plastic tab that pops out right there. And that's why I pointed that out. You want to make sure you don't break that. And just like that, as soon as you get everything released, cover comes off. Sometimes I'll try to pull the fuel tank out of these in order to get the carburetor off. And the reasoning I was more a little excited about this video is you guys are going to see here in just a few minutes. I don't even take this carburetor off completely, because Smart Gen, the way they framed their fuel tank into this one, it looked like it grommeted in, and it was going to take me another 30 to 45 minutes to pull the whole front apart, pull the tank out of it completely. I didn't show it in the film here, but I did take the studs out, or try to take the studs off to pull the carburetor off, and that just wasn't happening. So as you can see a couple frames ago, I just two 10mm nuts that you're going to see holding your carburetor on. That's all it is, holding that carburetor onto the manifold there, or to the engine block. I call it the manifold. But remove the fuel valve nozzle. That should let you free up the carburetor assembly a little bit easier, and be able to move the fuel tank a little easier too, just to give you a little more clearance on things. That's just a Phillips headed screw to pull that thing out. And as you can see, I'm going to struggle with this one just a little bit. The fuel tank is just not releasing like I'm used to on these things. By the way, I've been doing this for almost 20 years, in case anybody's been wondering. I don't think I've mentioned that in any of my videos, so maybe that'll register to some people. I just start saying that more often. Right here, we're pulling the clamps off the fuel line, and I just used a long pair of needle nose pliers. This can be done with basic pliers as well. You can see they're just my camera angles are horrible here, I apologize for that, but when you're looking at it, you're going to see it's just a spring clamp holding those on. You don't have to get any type of special tool. They can be a booger to get to. As you can tell, I finally wised up and was like, man, I'll try to get a better angle for you guys, but just release the clamp, and it's a rubber hose that's on a barbed fitting on the carburetor. If you've taken a small engine apart before, it's just like the other one you've taken apart. A little gas is going to leak. Just make sure your fuel valve's off so you don't leak any more if you have fuel in the tank, but whatever's in the hose is going to leak. So if you're worried about that, put a napkin underneath it. I'm not worried about it because fuel evaporates within a couple minutes. So as you can tell, and I kept this footage in here for a reason, I'm still struggling to get this carburetor to release, and I've had lots of these released before. The way Smart Tools was a little different than the rest is the way they put their fuel tank mounts in. I think I said that just a few minutes ago, but so we are going to, here in just a few minutes, mess with all the junk that I normally do, and I'm just going to pull the air ducts out of this thing, drain the carburetor. As you can see here, the carburetor drain is just a Phillips bit, but we're going to disassemble this carburetor on the unit without even having to pull it off, and it's kind of what I call getting lucky. So I didn't get the bowl that I had with the hose in, but I have a little container that I'm letting that fuel drain into, and this is just a 10mm bolt that's bolt that's holding this bowl onto the carburetor. You're going to see the fuel gasket drop on this thing here in a minute, and if you can try to catch that, go ahead, but don't freak out if you drop it. Same with the main jet. When you pull it out, don't worry about it. You're gonna find it. Just keep calm if stuff like that happens. See, watch, boom. Oh no, it's lost forever. No, it's not. So I'm gonna reach right in there. Even if I couldn't get it, I would get a chunk of wire or something. There's always a way to get stuff out. So never get scared when that happens. You can see this stuff. This one's got some debris in the pole. I'm just gonna go over, grab a little bit of brake cleaner, carb clean, gasoline will work here too. I've used wire brushes to get these cleaned out. Spray it out, flush it out, boom, she's clean. Blow it out with some air pressure if you have it, not mandatory. If not, you can use a rag to clean it out. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the main jet out here too while I got the air pressure built up. It's always built up, but anyways. These are pretty fine stuff, so that's why you can see I hand screwed it out at the end, because just dropping one in there, yeah, you will find it, but you don't want to have to if you can, so that's why I hand screwed that one loose. I used just a little fine chunk of wire here. I actually used one of the pieces of wire off their name tags. I've used it on hundreds or thousands of these little jets now. Same piece of wire, and just probe it, clean it out, and make sure she's clear. I'll take some light here in just a second, and we're going to flow some light through that thing as well, just to make sure it's good and I can't see any weird, blockages in that thing. I want to be able to look through it just clear as day, because that's where our fuel's flowing through. That's what we call the main jet. You can see I took our chunk of wire and I went up to right in the middle of the carburetor. Super zoomed in here so it's grainy as ever, but that chunk of wire is going right through the middle of the carb. I'm going to shine some light on it, so hopefully you guys can see a little better here. You can see that wire, I'm just going up and down through the carb in it. I've seen blockages there as well, mainly in snowblowers, but and for a lot of years I thought it was only in snowblowers, but I've seen it in pressure washers lately, so I've been checking them all. I'll take a little brake clean here, go up through that main nozzle. As you guys can see here, we're gonna, there it is, and just flow that thing. I'm watching, just to make sure, I'm watching the flow come out of it. that's how fuel's going to come out of it basically. Not as high pressure as that, but we want to make sure there's no blockages, no weird angles it's coming out at, because that's basically the way that it's feeding fuel right there. So we're going to put the main jet back in here. Be patient with this, it can be a booger. I actually downsized my screwdriver going in it, but I start these brass jets with fingers whenever I can. If they're indented in the carburetor, like you guys have seen me in a couple other videos, you have to use a screwdriver to start tightening, but whenever I'm able to start tightening by hand on this stuff, I do. And I just use a little baby screwdriver and get in there, and I'm not super tightening this as well because this will break super easily. So I'm just snugging it up until I feel the threads stop basically. And as soon as the threads kind of feel snug, that's it. We're going to remove the air box out of this thing, and the reason is it's 2 bolts. And it just was going to be way easier to get the O-ring up in here. I found just getting hands between the air box and the carburetor to get the O-ring back in was going to be a booger. So you guys can literally see this air box took, they're 10mm screws, it took, I don't know, 8 seconds, 7 seconds to get it out of there. So I went ahead and was going to drain the fuel system as well. Removing the air box helped with that. I just took an oversized hose, put it on the existing fuel hose, and then I'll put a fuel can underneath this thing, or a bucket, as you guys are going to see here in a minute. If you want to use a fire safe container, absolutely do so. And I'm going to turn the fuel valve on and let this thing flow. I don't tighten the fuel valve back up because I got to move stuff around or whatnot. I just kind of slide it in its spot, turn it on, and just as precaution, this thing I was told was sitting for a few years, so we're going to drain all the gas out of it. I use a little bit of grease on the O-ring. You don't want to use too much because you don't want to get too much in your bowl, your fuel bowl. But as you can tell, just a little grease. If you have a little bit of silicone or just something sticky, a little bit of Vaseline even, it'll make it stick in the groove a lot better. And you can see, and if I should have mentioned earlier in the video, but sorry, we're still new, I started at the back of the carburetor and worked my way towards the front and just easily pushed it in that groove. So that could be a lot more difficult than I just made it look on screen. But if you want to make sure that O-ring's good and seated. If it's not, you're going to leak fuel. So make sure that bowl O-ring's good and seated in that groove. Take your fuel bowl like I've done here in the next screen, put it up in the groove as well. You'll feel it lock in there to where it just feels good and snug. It's not crooked, it's not moving. And I'm going to take my screw, hand tighten it all the way up. Make sure your gasket's on the bottom as well. That's super easy to lose sometimes. And I'm not going to tighten this 45 foot-pounds by any means. I'm just going to feel it come up and snug. And that O-ring's up there. We don't want to smash it. This is real cheap metal. We're just snugging it up. So I'm going to go ahead and hook my fuel line up while I'm here. You'll see I'm going to grab my pliers and go ahead and hook my fuel clamps at the same time, whichever pliers you chose to use. I like these Harbor Freight 90-degree long-handled ones. I use them every day. I've forgot on hundreds to tighten up the drain screw before on multiple things, so that's why I'm showing it in this video. Make sure you do that. And we'll go around here. I'm going to turn the fuel on. I did put new fuel in it. I should have put that on screen just to show you guys, but just to make sure it's not leaking anywhere. And sure enough, it's not. So I didn't put very much fuel in it at all. And the reason is because if it was leaking, I wouldn't want it leaking everywhere. So I guess you had a fuel valve, but yeah, I didn't put very much fuel in to start. So we're going to restart hooking our induction here. As you can see, the pipes, this one's really nice. It's got a taper on the end of it. Shouldn't be super hard to press back in to its groove. I'm going to make sure it's got a good seat around. If you don't, and you're in super dirty environments, such as the desert or something, you will suck dirt straight into the engine, and you don't want to do that. So make sure all gaskets and all rubber components are as they were when you took them apart. I didn't slide those apart on this thing, so they went right back on. Take our 10mm nuts and just start them by hand to make sure we're not cross-threading anything. And I'll always grab the hand tool or the electric tool, whatever I'm using, at the very end, just to make sure, on this littler stuff especially, just to make sure I don't cross-thread nothing, and just to make sure everything starts fine. So as you can see, even that nut was being a little stubborn, so I had to make sure it felt good before putting it all the way on. We put our screws back in here. Usually there's one on the other side of this too, but this thing's only held on by one screw here and then one on the engine block, which you're going to see here in just a second. Once again, not reefing these things down super tight. We're just filling them snug up, and that's just as tight as they need to be. I haven't yet had too many things come back at all with loose bolts. I've been doing this a really long time, so torque specs are a pretty good thing. If anybody's into that motocross stuff, you'll know all about torque specs and what they really mean to things. So Tighten up both sides. I do use a little bit of an extension on the other side. It's just easier to get into. If you have one on hand, use it. So as you guys can see, our carburetor's back together here. So I think it's on. We're gonna go ahead and hook up our PVC vent breather here. The other problem I have seen on these generators are valve issues, which that hose you can actually see hooks to the valve cover. We did not need to adjust valves on this one. It was still had great compression and we didn't need to. So if you're just still having problems and you went through this video, leave a comment and I'll make a video on how to do valves on one day, but haven't had that opportunity to make a video on one yet. So put our air filter back in. You'll notice how I noticed the grooves of the air filter worked. You want to not try to put it in backwards if possible. You'll just suck the dirt that you didn't clean off. This air filter still looked brand new, as you guys can see. So I did blow it off just a little bit, but it didn't even need to be shown because there's no dirt on it to even show that it was getting blown off. So at this point, before putting all of our covers back on, I'm going to go ahead and start this machine. So we're going to pull our choke. We're going to turn, make sure we got a little bit more gas than I even put in it, because like I said, I put just a little bit of an amount before just to make sure it didn't leak. Mount leaks. And so I'm going to put some more gas in it. Oh, we pulled the filter out of the nozzle. That's a good design there, guys. But that's okay. If that happens to you, don't freak out. Just pull it right off the end of the can and put it back in there. If it doesn't fit in there just right, you just got to spin it a little bit and it'll fit in there. Before I start anything, just for sloshing purposes, I always put the cap back on. And make sure our on switch is in the on position. I'm going to go ahead and start this thing up here. 2 pulls. And start it up. Cool. It should be running here. I'm doing a voiceover action here, but we're going to go ahead and hit it to idle, see if the throttle's up and down, do its thing real quick. I'm not going to load test it at this particular time because I got a green light, so I'm just going to assume. I know we're not supposed to, but let's shut her down and let's reassemble this thing so it looks like a generator again. We're going to start by putting the top cover on, remove the fuel cap that we just put on, but hey, that's okay. Slide your cover over the fuel tank nozzle, and if you're really worried about gas fumes, you can put your cap on at this point, but I always wait until I kind of got it situated just because it gives you a little more clearance when moving stuff around. So if you can take the gas fumes, just leave it off for a minute there unless you're super full. There's that tab I zoomed in on earlier. I just want to make sure you guys knew about that. They can break off. They're just plastic, and it is holding the cover on, so we want to mate that thing up just right. As you can tell, the fuel tank wasn't completely in its groovage here on the other side, which is blind. I happen to know that because I've been into these. But if you get in a situation where your cover isn't fitting right, take that off, finagle your tank a little bit, and you'll feel it just kind of go into a perfect little slot groove, and it's going to stay there. It may try to fall out when you let go, but if you can keep a little bit of pressure on it while you're putting this cover on, it'll all fit together as it came from the factory. And that is the biggest problem with these generators, is you really have to know how they go back together to get them to go back together properly. If not, they look like a train wreck when you put them back together because nothing's fitting in its groove properly. It'll run, but it'll vibrate and shake and make all sorts of funny noises. So as you can see here, I'm just real patient with this part. I want to make sure all the little plastic tabs that I know about are going into their spot. I'm feeling everything kind of malt click into itself. If you know, you know. And it's going to lock in without even screws going into it. I'm going to grab a couple of screws just to kind of reinforce, just to make sure it doesn't fall out on itself. I have had on the Yamahas, they just like to fall apart on themselves once in a while when you're trying to put them back together. The Hondas are a lot better about this. They're a little bit more difficult to take apart as far as bolt tension and stuff, but we'll go over that another day. But the Yamahas definitely go back together just like this. Another thing you want to check, you can see that top grommet right in the where my hand was there. That's a spark plug access hole. I already knew this machine had spark before starting this video. If you want to know how to check spark, basically just shoot a little fuel down the nozzle. On these ones, I do it through the PVC breather hole, which we showed just a little bit ago. I have a little fuel in a pump can. You can use ether on these as well because they're not two-stroke, and that'll verify you have spark and compression instantly. If your machine starts by putting a little fuel down the nozzle without the choke on, make sure you shoot the fuel down the hole without the choke on, then pull the choke once your fuel's removed and try to start it, and it fires up for a second and dies. You know 100% you have a fuel blockage somewhere. So you're basically doing a spark and compression test all in one by shooting fuel down the barrel. So I learned that a long time ago. It's kind of a tip I put in the end of this video. So hopefully you listened this long and you picked it up. But as you can see here, guys, I didn't explain too much of what we're doing here. We're just putting screws back into where they came out. If you have questions on any of this, put it in the comments. But we clicked that cover back together. We're putting the screws that we took out back in. I figured I'd put this in there because not everybody's super tech savvy with stuff like this, but yeah, this isn't super hard stuff. We're just put your screws that you took out in a safe spot, in a baggie, in a magnet tray, whatever you want to do. Don't lose them, because there's a decent amount of them, and we're just putting them in the exact same spot they came out of. They don't have to go in the, you know, same screw, same hole, but if it's the same length of screw that came out of it, and yeah, we're just putting screws in. Not super hard stuff here. Putting them in the front cover here, and then we'll spin to the side. I'm going to put that one's been forgotten on a lot, but make sure you don't forget that one. That one holds the main cover on completely, so it'll cause a pretty good little rattle if you don't have that one in. This grommet gasket thing here, you can see how it indents into the plastic cover. They're a booger. I would not worry about it. All it is a weather guard, and you shouldn't be leaving your generator out in the rain anyways, in my opinion. So just take that for what it is. Just put the cover back on. If anything, it's going to be a nice gas deterrent from going in the machine. If you spill gas on it, it'll at least run out on the outside of the machine and drain onto the ground or whatever. So we're going to put our big Allens back in the bottom. These are the only unique screws on the whole machine. They're their own kind, and they're just 3 zoomed in down here. And I hope this video did help you guys that are kind of in need of just making one run in an emergency situation, because like I said, we use 0 special tools on this thing. Anybody with a motorhome, if you're traveling, if you're a dune guy, anything like that, you should have these basic tools on hand, I would assume, and this should be easy. As you can tell here, we took the side cover, took those little grommet holder deals, pounded them in there, and then I'm going to take my last 2 final screws, put one on the right side, and then we're going to tighten it up, and we're going to move to our left side, make this as entertaining as possible for you guys. And at the very, very end, we're going to start and load test this thing. The way I load test them, as you guys can see here, is with a heat gun. It's a 15 amp heat gun that works perfect for these little 2,000 watters, because it load tests them to the exact point that I need them to. I worked in a shop for a number of years that had an actual load bank to it, and I was able to plug my heat gun into that load bank at one point to see exactly what it draws. So, or what it drew. Sorry guys, just a small inch. See this thing fired up first pull? We got our green light on. It's just gonna purr for a while. I'm gonna run over and grab my heat gun real quick and come back. We're gonna plug it right into that outlet and fire that thing up. You'll hear the generator as soon as I hit the first switch kind of pop down, and then you'll hear it really low down in a second. I always try to do this on the auto throttle or the eco throttle one too, just to make sure it's working properly. Your machine should throttle up as needed for the load it's being basically required. So if you're sitting on eco throttle and I hit my switch to full bore, basically it should throttle up to the amount that I need it to. So if it doesn't, we still have problems. But as you can tell, this thing's on eco throttle, it's throttling up just fine, we're good. So we'll shut this thing off, and we sure appreciate you guys watching, and stay tuned for the next video. Have a great day.